Live stream going here, just double checking, and we are live. Welcome everyone to the City of Covina's Bite Back Tour. My name is Levy Sun. I'm the Public Information Officer at the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. Let's do a quick round of introductions going around the circle here. Ali, go ahead and start.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali Gaspar and I'm the Outreach Assistant here at the district. As you can hear a noise behind me, I'm currently in Covina at Heritage Park / Civic Center Plaza, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
All right, next up we have Carol Ann.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Hagley. I am one of the education specialists at the district.
And then we have Pablo.
Hi everyone, my name is Pablo Cabrera and I'm the communication specialist here at the district.
All right, and then we have Jimena.
Hello everyone, I'm Jimena. I am the assistant vector ecologist for San Gabriel and I cover Covina, so I'm super excited to be here with you guys.
All right, and then joining us in a bit later will be Fred, who will represent operations. But first up in the news, it's all a buzz right now that West Nile virus has been detected in San Gabriel Valley. Luckily, so far, not in Covina. Our agency found a dead bird that was collected in the city of South Pasadena. However, just because the bird was found in that city doesn't mean it's isolated to that city. Birds, just like the virus, just like the mosquitoes, don't care about boundaries. And it can be expected that West Nile virus is pervasive throughout California or even Southern California, which that means for you, our viewers, you need to pick up some repellent as soon as possible. And one of the most common questions we get from residents in Covina is, how do I even put on repellent, or how do I even look for repellent? And I'm going to throw it over to Ali, who will help us get a little deeper in the topic of repellents. And I guess I'll throw the question to you, Ali. What should people look for in a repellent?
Hi Levy, those are really good questions. The main thing to look for in repellent, I have a bottle with me right here, is the active ingredient. I'm not sure if you can see here, but if you get in really close at the bottom of your repellent bottle, you can see the active ingredient. And so as long as you're applying one of these following 4 ingredients, which are oil of lemon of eucalyptus / PMD, DEET, picaridin, and IR3535, you can go ahead and get any one of those 4 ingredients on your skin, and you're going to be fine. And actually, I can show you, if you'd like, Levy, how to apply it.
Yeah, actually, let's go ahead and do that. So when you apply it, do you spray it all over your clothes and your arms, everything, or how would it work?
No, that would be too excessive and not safe. Actually, you just want to apply it on exposed skin. For example, what I'm wearing right now, you can't see my pants, but I'm wearing loose fitted pants and a shirt that has the sleeves cut off. So you would just want to apply it to wherever you have exposed skin. And you don't want to over apply as well. 2 pumps for each limb is pretty good. So I'm just going to demonstrate for you guys. So 1, 2, and then you want to rub it in like you would sunscreen. The one that I'm applying on right now is oil of lemon eucalyptus. And you also want to make sure that the percentage of the repellent is appropriate for what activity you're doing. So I'm outside here at the park, so mine is about 15%. So that's pretty good. And then I'm going to want to reapply whenever it says so at the back of the label, the directions label. Also, my ankles are exposed. So I'm going to go ahead and spray my ankles. And there you go. But you guys didn't see before, but I also applied sunscreen before. So what you want to do is, when it comes to sunscreen, especially now that it's hotter and when you're outside, you want to make sure that you're putting your sunscreen on first. And then whenever that's dry, you put on your repellent second. And you do that because you want the repellent to be like the outer layer. That way when mosquitoes come near you, even if they land on you, they will not bite you.
It's a very good point regarding sunscreen. I also get that a lot too. And I read somewhere that the combination of sunscreen and repellent in one bottle is not as effective. CDC recommends to actually not combine those ingredients into one bottle, rather separate them out and apply them in their own individual elements.
And thanks for that reminder, Allie, because I can never remember which order. So it's good to think that the repellent is the outer cover, almost like a raincoat that keeps the mosquitoes away from you. So
Right. Yeah, it's a very good question actually that we get from a lot of our residents. So it's always good to just remind that the mosquitoes approach you because they want your blood. They smell you. Basically, they smell your CO2. They smell the warmth coming from you. So what the repellent does is it actually shields that from you. So it's really interesting.
And Allie, a quick question when it comes to applying to with your face. Do you just spray your face away, or how does that work?
That's actually a really good idea. I actually forgot to spray my face. So I can show you guys. So you'd never want to spray on your face. I've seen people do that in front of me. It's terrifying. You always want to spray on your hand first. So I'm just gonna give myself a couple sprays. And you want to rub it in, oh, I'm wearing a mask. So you want to tap it in on wherever your skin is exposed. For example, your neck, and then wherever your shirt line ends as well. You want to make sure that you avoid like your eyes and that you avoid your mouth and everything. And since I have it on my hands, I need to be mindful that I need to wash my hands before I touch something else or start doing things. But yeah, and when it comes to kids, always check with your pediatrician before you apply anything on them. You can always spot test it first just to be safe. And one thing I've found helpful that I've recommended to family is to take the repellent bottle or take the information about your repellent to your pediatrician.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that. So it looks like repellents are pretty effective, especially the four ingredients of DEET, oil of lemon eucalyptus, I think also known as PMD, picaridin, and IR 3535. So those are always good to keep in mind that those are the most effective. They've been well studied. There are other stuff out there that are natural or different mineral based, different oils. They may actually work, but maybe not as long as they promise, because a lot of these tests are done in laboratory settings where they say, oh, this oil may last for 4 hours or 8 hours, when in fact, every one is a little different, especially during the summer when I can only speak for myself. I sweat a lot, especially in the heat. I do not like the heat. So any repellent that goes on my skin, I will sweat it off within maybe an hour or two easily.
And also, Levy, the best part is sometimes they come with different scents now. We're so far ahead in our technology and everything that now with repellent, sometimes they have no scent and sometimes they have really nice tropical fresh scent. So, whatever you're in the mood for or to mask your sweat smell, you can always apply some of that. And it works as a perfume in a sense.
All right, I'll ditch my deodorant.
That's a really good point too, Allie, because I did notice there are some new repellents and I didn't even smell a thing. So if you're not about fragrance either, I think that's also a great thing to note, that you're not going to have this oily, weird smell on you at all. There's some that are essentially odorless.
Not just the smell though, but also the feel. Like the one that I sprayed is the lightest feeling ever. It's not oily at all. I know that there are also, even if you don't like the spray of it, you don't have to get the spray. You can get the repellent lotion, or you can even use repellent wipes. I find repellent wipes really interesting because you can just pack them away. Like they're easy to go in your emergency bag or in your purse, or even have some in the car. And then whenever you're out and about, you can just pull that out and apply some repellent wipes to yourself.
And that also means then for those of you watching from the city of Covina, you're probably watching us as a recap on the video, or you're watching live right now on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to add them there. If you're watching on our website, we have a little submit form down below us that you can where you can submit a question or comment. I hear a lot from Covina residents too that that because of these four ingredients, they don't have to worry about some of the uncommon and maybe even ineffective ways of repelling mosquitoes, such as using dryer sheets, rubbing dryer sheets on their arms and necks and stuffing it into their hat, which we now know doesn't work very well because you're sweating, you're constantly moving, and those sheets barely mask your scent. And then I think those fans that supposedly create this aura of protection around you doesn't seem to work, especially if there's wind. Carries all that effectiveness away.
So you're saying, Levy, there's no magical globe or dome that goes over me with these fans that protect me from mosquitoes? I need something on my skin.
Probably not a fan. You can put yourself in a plastic bubble. That might work.
I don't know. That
I've
doesn't sound safe
actually,
to me.
oh, sorry. I've actually ran into a lot of people that buy the citronella plants, and as a way to, they like placing these plants on their patios so that when they go outside, the mosquitoes don't get them. And after a while, they come back and they say, hey, I bought these plants and I'm still getting bit. It seems like these plants don't work. And so repellent is always the top thing that you want to do, the number one thing that you could do to protect yourself from any bites.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about wind direction or anything else. You're covered no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Exactly. So it looks like these repellents are pretty effective at or disorienting mosquitoes and repels them away. Too bad there's not one that can mask my fear of them. That will help, because I know they can sense my fear every time I walk outside. I think mostly because of the fact that they land on you and they bite you and they literally take blood out of you to use.
Yeah, if you've seen those close-ups of them sawing into your skin and probing around to pierce that little blood vessel, it's pretty gross. So, and then knowing that they're actually spitting saliva into you, and that's not only creates that itchy bump that they leave behind, but also can be carrying pathogens. So it's pretty gross when you see it up close. We're sort of live in this bubble of, you can't see it, perhaps it's not happening, but if you get up and look closely, they really are sawing into your skin and regurgitating it under your skin and into your blood. So it's really disgusting.
You want to know what's crazy too is I was actually just explaining that to my fiance yesterday, and he was freaking out, and he was like, how do you guys in vector control live? How do you not live without fear all the time? And I'm like, what? That's a really good question. You just build mini habits of doing this stuff, and eventually maybe the fear doesn't go away, but at least you have the fear that can go away, that you don't have to worry about that because you're doing your part.
Well, it's moderated by knowledge and understanding that there are some simple things you can do to not only keep them from landing and biting, but also, reducing their numbers.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's key right there, reducing the numbers so that they are not able to effectively transmit and carry out an outbreak in a community. Our biggest concern here in Covina is West Nile virus, but there are other mosquitoes here that happen to lurk in people's yards, and those are the invasive Aedes mosquitoes. Invasive as of a large population discovered in 2011, a smaller one in 2001. But since 2011, these Aedes mosquitoes have been taking over people's outdoor spaces. I hear a lot from Covina that they go outside, they can't even sit there for more than 30 seconds before being inundated by these little black and white Aedes mosquitoes. And it all starts with just understanding their life cycle. A lot of people already know that mosquitoes come from stagnant water, but they also go through several stages of growth in that water. So Pablo, I don't know if you have any live ones to show right now or any. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, it looks like the one on the bottom is juggling a larva head at the very bottom. I was playing with it.
That's a little macabre, isn't it?
Yeah. I've never seen oh, there it goes. Nom, nom, nom. It's eating lunch. So these are mosquito larvae, which many kids actually assume are like tadpoles, perhaps. And these wiggle around in the water and they eventually grow into a pupa stage, where it looks like a shrimp. And oh, perfect. You got the diamond there to show the size. So these are really tiny. And once they go from that wormy larvae to the shrimp-like pupae, they'll eventually emerge out of the water. And I think, Pablo, you have what looks like an egg graft floating around on top?
Yes. So if you see that it's attached to a larva right now, but I can point it out right now, that little thing right there is an egg graft, and you can see how tiny it is compared to my tweezers here. And that can hold hundreds of mosquito larvae in just that one egg graft. Jimena, on average, how many eggs do egg graft usually hold?
So on average, you could expect about 150. Some have more, some have less, but yeah, usually 150.
Wow, that's a lot just in that one egg raft. And just in the small tray that I have of larvae, these will all be adult mosquitoes once these larvae turn into pupa, and then flying adults that we're all familiar with.
And
Oh,
I
and I
see
could
one
see
there
a
that, yes, Amanda spotted it too.
yes, and there's also a casing there. So you had one of them emerge recently.
But you've also got one that's straightening out, and it looks like
Correct.
a larva, but it looks like it's getting ready to emerge.
I think
Correct.
it's to the left, right, of those tweezers.
This one?
Yes, to the left to the tweezers. They're there, that one right there.
Yeah.
That
That
one's
one
a
looks like it's
pupa
ready to
that's
emerge.
straightening out, getting ready to split open, and the adult will step out onto the surface of the water. So talk
Wow.
fast.
Yeah, Jimena, just asking you, Jimena, once the mosquito, takes our blood to make the eggs and lays those eggs on stagnant water, how long does it take for the mosquitoes to develop into flying adults?
So once the eggs are laid, it usually takes about 2 days for those eggs to hatch out. And depending on the temperature, the length that it might take for them to cycle through varies. But on average, it takes about a week. In the wintertime, when it's a little bit cooler, you could expect them to be developing for a few weeks up to a month, maybe even a little bit longer than a month. Some stay dormant as larvae for a few months until it gets warm enough for them to come out and emerge. But in the summertime, when the temperatures are warm, they definitely do cycle, usually about a week, but it could be even less than a week.
Wow. And obviously, we monitor for these adult mosquitoes flying around. Actually, your department is primarily tasked with that. So can you tell me a little about what you all do in terms of monitoring these mosquitoes and the diseases they may carry?
Yeah, sure. So what we usually do is we have areas of interest that we determine based on location, based on the ecology, what's going on in the area. And we go out to these areas weekly or bi-monthly. And what we do is we place traps. And these traps can help us determine the abundance of mosquitoes that are in an area. It also allows us to test the mosquitoes to see if there are any viruses that may be currently circulating in certain areas. So we have different types of equipment that we use in our arsenal, such as gravid traps. Gravid traps allows us to collect mosquitoes that are ready to lay eggs. And those eggs, those mosquitoes that are ready to lay their eggs have already eaten blood and have produced eggs. And so those mosquitoes we know have fed on something, a bird or a person. But if they fed on a bird that's infected, it's very possible that they have the virus in them, and they can later transmit that to someone else. So what we do is once we test these mosquitoes, if one of these actually come back with a virus, we know that mosquitoes generally fly a certain radius, and that tells us we need to focus all of our attention in this particular area. And so having these traps out is really important because it allows us to know where to set out our resources and how to best protect the public.
Okay. And once you set these traps, oh, hey, look, it's you. Once you set this, and then we have Jackie there to the left identifying these. So you bring them back into the lab and you're able to sort them out, identify, and send them out for testing. What does the data even look like?
So we usually, we have different types of data that we use. A lot of it has to do, what we do is we try to track patterns. And so sometimes what we like to do is use line graphs. So I think you might have a line graph that we could look at that shows the total weekly collections. Okay, so here we have our collections that we have from out in the field. And it's every single line that's a different color is a different year. And we can kind of compare whether we're having more or less mosquitoes, what's normal, what's not normal. And that really helps us say, hey, you know, most of the places have around this much mosquitoes, but now we're seeing in this particular area, there's, you know, 200% more mosquitoes. So we need to go out and do some applications, do some inspections, let people know that they need to wear the repellent because more mosquitoes means that there's a higher chances that you could possibly come into contact with any diseases that could be out in the area.
Wow, so cool.
So we have, here you see that in 2020, we had a really big spike of mosquitoes right around week 25, but the rest of the years was a little bit lower. And so we use this data to really direct all of our resources. We have another, we have a map. We also use maps. And this is an example of last week's collections. So each circle is a trap that we placed out, and the size of the circle is telling us the amount of mosquitoes that we collected. So a really small circle is telling us, you know, there's not really a lot of activity here, but if you see larger circles, those are areas where we really want to focus our attentions on so that we could get those mosquito populations controlled.
Very cool. Now, what does Covina look like in terms of mosquito activity?
So Covina actually hasn't been doing too bad. As you can see, this is a line graph actually comparing the collections in Covina and the other traps in the district. So the orange line is our district average, and the blue line is how many mosquitoes we were getting in Covina in comparison to all the other locations.
Awesome. And so taking it all in, it's a lot of data you are collecting for the district. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Fred, who just joined us. Fred, you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Fred. I'm the specialist for the Covina, Glendora, and San Dimas area.
Awesome. So knowing all the data that Jimena and her team puts out from surveillance, how do you use that data to go where you need to go in Covina and everywhere else?
Right. So when we have, when we look at the maps, the data collected, and there are high trap counts, you know, I will usually go to those areas and see, okay, what am I missing here? You know, we normally have sites with sources that we go every 2 weeks, once a month, depending on how much they're breeding or if they're breeding, you know, and then we'll canvass the area as well, you know, walk around the neighborhood, you know, we'll get with, obviously with communications department and, hey, help us out, you know, put out a word here in Covina, what's going on, you know, so things of that nature, you know, on a daily basis.
And that's, it seems like that will be a year-round thing, right? Not so much, it won't just stop in, say, September. Like you are out there year-round.
Correct. We do inspections all year long. If need be, we do treatments all year long as well.
So you're telling me, Fred, that in the dead of winter, around Christmas time, I could get bit by mosquitoes in Covina?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Bummer. Well, that's what we get for living in sunny SoCal, right?
Yes. With that, good that you mentioned that, because a lot of the residents think like, well, it hasn't rained. It's, you know, why it's so hot? You know, why there's mosquitoes, right? And so we tell them like, okay, when you overwater your plants and the water stays in the plant saucers, they start breeding in those little, nicks and cracks of a plant saucer. And they're like, oh, okay. So even though, Southern California is normally dry, when we water and we overwater our plants, that's where they're emerging from.
That's a very good point. In fact, we got later on, we have a little demonstration we'll mention, but for now, let's, so thank you, Fred, for all your hard work helping out Covina residents to stay more bite-free. And while Fred is out there tackling the public sources and Jimena's out there trapping, hopefully people will do their part on their private properties. But to do that, we also need to make sure our young ones understand how mosquitoes thrive in our city. So I'm going to throw it over to Carol Ann to discuss how we pull all this data together from places like surveillance and bring it to the schools and the students.
Right. So we have a long tradition of going into the schools, and we've got 552 schools in our jurisdiction. So it's, there's a lot of different opportunities to share the information. And so generally what I do when I go to a particular school is I check with Jimena and look at the reports and see what's going on, so that when I come into the classroom, I can give them the most up-to-date information and say, look, this is something that you guys have control over. So we talk to them about how they can actually tip out sources, and just while they're running around, in between homework and other chores and activities, it just takes a few minutes to kind of look around their house and dump water out. But we've also got some more organized community citizen science programs that we offer to schools. And one of them is called Operation Mosquito Grid, which actually was started by Jimena. And Jimena, I don't remember, what was the original name that you had for it? Is Jimena there?
Yeah, I believe it was Aedes Super Cup.
Oh, that's right, Aedes Super Cup. So we took her excellent idea and expanded on it, and we provide the kids with the same tools that surveillance has used, and that is an OV cup, which we call a detection lure. And then we give the kids the OV cup and the paper that lines the OV cup, and show them how to put the whole thing together and where to put it. And they actually do mosquito surveillance. And then they, at the end of the week, they pull that paper out and they photograph it, and they can post their results on the virtual lab that we have set up. So this is something that can be done either remotely or for homeschool kids, or can be an in-classroom program. We do run those in the fall. And what they're looking for are the eggs being laid on there by Aedes, these invasive Aedes mosquitoes, for homes.
I really like you pointed that out, Caroline, especially control over what's in our environment, because everything we do impacts the ecosystems around us, including the plants we use. So thank you so much, Caroline, for pointing out some of the aspects of our outreach that help out the students to understand. And I actually believe you and Pablo may have something in store for our viewers in Covina. I think you're calling it the Bromeliad Water Challenge. So while Pablo and Caroline get set up, let's talk a little bit about the stuff around our home that we carry with us, or plant that can cause stagnant water to accumulate. And I kind of want to throw it over to you, Fred, because you're out in the field, you're inspecting a lot of properties. What kind of stuff have you seen around people's homes that are not so obvious to people that can hold water and grow mosquitoes?
So when we go to inspect some of the properties, we'll sometimes go into the backyards. We'll find miscellaneous stuff like recycles. We'll find buckets. Like I mentioned earlier, the overwatering of the plants. The water falls into these saucers. Even sometimes the toys, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
small little trucks, or if you have a daughter and she's playing with teacups in the back, she leaves them on the grass. Sprinklers go off at night, and they forget to pick those up, after a day or so, within the week, like Jimena said, you can get mosquitoes coming out of a teacup.
Wow, teacup. Never would have thought. Yeah, children's toys are, I think, quite often missed just because they kind of sit off to the side and you assume they're being played with, but they get forgotten quite often.
Yes.
Let's see. I remember Marco mentioning finding larvae in a bowling ball out in the yard. I recall inspecting, this wasn't anywhere near here, but I remember looking at an oil rig out in Signal Hill, further down south from us near Long Beach. And I pop open that the containment basin down there, and half of it was oil, the other half was water. And naturally, I thought, there's no way these mosquitoes could be in there. But turns out they were all on the side where there's the water because they can still stick their siphons out and breathe. So these mosquitoes are very hard to shake from our backyards.
Yeah. If water is stagnant even in a small little cap of water bottle cap, they will breed in those as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was actually I used to do inspections a few years back, and I was actually with Marco when he found the mosquitoes in the bowling ball. So I definitely remember that. But I've also seen them in pool floaties. So sometimes it's hot, you put the floaties in the pool, you take them out and you kind of leave them off to the side. Well, that chlorine actually evaporates and you're left with water, and the wind will blow organic material in there. And I've actually seen Aedes growing inside of those pool floaties.
Wow. That's a new one. I've never heard of that, but I believe it. There's also somewhere else that they can grow, and I think we're gonna go ahead and dial over to Pablo in the field. Are you guys ready?
We are ready to go.
All right. So somewhere else they can grow is apparently, I'm gonna say this bromeliad. So what do you have in store for us, Pablo and Carol Ann?
So these bromeliads are very popular, and you can buy them at Home Depot and places like that. And they're beautiful flowers, but they do take some care because they can grow mosquitoes. And the reason for that is the way that their growth habit is to hold water in their leaves. So Pablo's going to get a close-up and take a look at, you can see the water that's trapped in their leaves, and they require that to grow in a healthy manner. But that's a prime place for mosquitoes to grow. And people look in there and they see a little bit of water and they think, well, that's not very much. But one of the things that I like to show kids, especially at fairs or in classroom demonstrations, is see if you can guess how much water this bromeliad is holding. Because you look in and you think, oh, that can't be enough to grow a mosquito. But again, we've been talking about how a bottle cap worth of water can grow mosquitoes. And then you look at a bromeliad, I don't know. So what I do is I then take a bromeliad and I say, okay, it's got some water in it. Let's pour that water out and see how much is actually in that bromeliad. So in milliliters, take a guess what you think how much this bromeliad was able to hold.
All right. So we have to guess how many milliliters. Does anyone want to throw a number out there?
300.
I will say
300.
I'll say 400. This is the Price is Right in mosquito format. No, I'll do 301 as strategy here. So Fred says 300. I'll say
Phoebe took my
301.
answer.
Okay, I'll stick with 400. So Ali, you'll give it 301.
All right, lucky one.
Any other guesses? Yeah. All right. So,
$1, Bob.
so how
I'll take
many?
the bell for fun.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. It's right at about, where is it at?
Looks like it's at
Just right under 175.
75. Yeah.
175.
175.
And I was aiming really high too.
Yeah. So if they can grow in a
Wow.
bottle cap, they definitely can grow in a bromeliad.
175 milliliters is still a lot of water.
A lot of water.
All of that came out of the bromeliad right here.
And that's
So
a pretty small
unassuming.
size one.
Yeah, and for those of you watching and you want to convert that to say something like cups, so 175 milliliters is about 0.75, almost a full cup of water. If you want to measure that out roughly, it's about 3/4 cup of water. And never would I imagine something that small would carry that much water. So thank you, Caroline, for showing us how frightening these bromeliads are. And I think that lends us to talk more about getting rid of these tropical plants and using California native plants, which don't hold as much water, aren't big leafy plants, and they are still very beautiful in our yards. So right now, if you're watching us, City of Covina, we are here at the Bite Back Tour, and we just showed you how much water can be held in a small bromeliad plant. And it's just one way you can take control of your yard to get rid of the mosquitoes and stay more bite-free around your home. We're nearing the end here, so I actually want to give the opportunity for our guests to sign off and any last words. So I'm going to start off with Fred. Any thing you want to say to the citizens and residents of Covina?
Just make sure that within your property in your backyard, you're constantly walking it, making sure that you're picking up the toys, any unused container, a bucket, flip it over, or toss it if it's not in use. Again, overwatering the plants, be careful and make sure that the saucers are empty after a day or so.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. And then Jimena, any parting words for our friends and families in Covina?
Definitely. I would say that it's really important for the residents of Covina to report anything that they see. There is a hotline for reporting dead birds. Dead birds do help us find out where there may be virus activity, West Nile virus activity. And if you see a dead bird out there, you can always call the hotline or call us to report it. And we will go out, pick it up, and test it to make sure that there is no virus in that area. If you see any concerns where you think that you might see stagnant water or mosquitoes growing in a public space, you could also call in and report that, give us those hints so that we could go out there and help you guys out.
Great point. And for those of you watching, if you see a dead bird around Covina or anywhere you are in Southern California, you can call 1-877-WNV bird, B-I-R-D. So in numerical format, that'll be 1-877-968-2473. Again, that's 877-968-2473. I sound like an infomercial. But so thank you, Jimena, for that. And then finally, not finally, we have Pablo and Caroline. Any words from you two?
Yes, I just want to reiterate to residents of Covina that simple ways to make sure that we all stay mosquito free is tipping out any stagnant water, throwing it away, and making sure we're putting on any mosquito repellent, just like Ali demonstrated with us earlier today. Those are 3 simple tips that we can all do to be public health heroes in our community. And I'm going to hand it over to Carol Ann here for her final remarks.
All right. So for more information on California native plants, there are a number of organizations that you can look up online. One of them is the California Native Plant Society. Another one is the Mediterranean Gardener Society. So look up Mediterranean gardening or Mediterranean plants. There is also a local chapter that meets. So you've got a number of organizations that can then direct you to dealers that handle either California natives or plants that are evolved to grow in our kind of an ecosystem and require a lot less water and a lot less care and are gorgeous to look at.
And that lot less water is so helpful now since we are experiencing a major drought, and this could be an annual thing or maybe permanent, who knows? But yeah, less water use around the property is always better. All right, Ali, go ahead. Anything else you want to say to folks in Covina?
Hey, everyone in Covina. I just want to remind everyone to kind of recap what everyone said, to make sure that you are dumping out all of your stagnant water, that you're checking around to make sure that there's nothing in your yard and in your properties at least once a week. And that when you're outside, that you're wearing repellent. Like I mentioned earlier, I showed you guys how to use it, but also just to carry it around with you. Just like you carry sunscreen in your car and in your bag and everything when you're out, same thing, carry repellent. You never know when you're gonna need it, and it's important to protect yourself. And also, I have a little surprise. I know some of you guys have seen our EcoHealth vector education vehicle. So we're really excited to show it off, especially with the gorgeous Covina as a background. So like I said earlier, just make sure that you're applying repellent. I find these wipes very helpful to keep in emergencies and also to dump out any water like these sources that you see here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Ali. And for everyone else watching, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Bite Back Tour in the city of Covina. Just remind everyone to please stay healthy and stay bite free. We'll see you.